Now that we've opened a file and we've put in the safety catch in case it doesn't work, then we're ready to read from the file. So we have some files over here. Let's go ahead and look at the age.txt, which is the one that we opened. And notice that it's a series of integers. And when a file opens, it starts the file pointer right at the very beginning of the file. So right now the file pointer is right there at the beginning of 22. And so that's where we are. Now notice when you're getting values from a user, you can ask for something and they'll give you whatever you want. When you're getting values from a file, you have to know what's there because you're just going to read it in order. So what we have here is a series of integers that we're going to read and store in an array. Well, to do that, we first need to define an array. So I'm going to start by picking a size. So I'm going to do constant int, and I'm going to call it k max size. And for today, we're going to make it 24 big. And then we define the array, and this is going to be an array of integers, and it's going to be k max size big, and we can call it ages. All right, so now we have an array, and now I'm going to use a different method with the array object. So I use the object ages, and I do dot, and then the method, and I'm going to use the method fill. And this method allows you to fill up the entire array. So I'm going to put a -1, and this will fill up the entire array. So if we print it out, so if I simply do a for statement and I just say, here I have int I want to start at 0, and I want to go until we get to k max size, or less than k max size, right? I misspelled max up here. It's not finding it. I've got a Z. I want an X. I'm going to go back and fix that. So it's k max size. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to print out that element in the array. So I'm just going to print ages I, and then an end L. And let's go ahead and run that and see what we get. And there we get 24 -1s. And that's how many values we have. So now our array is up and working. And I'm going to comment this out. I don't want to, well, so we can see what that looks like. And then here, let's move it down under this comment that says print out the values in the array. And then what I want to do is actually read a value. So I'm going to, the way that I do this, I'm going to use the extraction operator like we do with cin, but now I'm going to use our ifstream object, right? So we have this ifstream object in. So I'm simply going to use in followed by the extraction operator and say where I want to store it. Well, the place that I want to store it is in ages. And which location in ages? Well, I want to start with 0, but I don't want to keep using numbers and have to know where I am. So I want to keep track of the index that I currently am. So I'm going to create an index, an integer that I can store that index, and I'm just simply going to call it age size. And this will tell me where I currently am. And when we start, when we first define this array, we get 24 integers, but all of them are just -1s, and so none of them are the valid ones. So I'm going to start this at 0. That's the index where I currently want to be working. So I'm going to say start at 0. So I'm going to use that value and start at 0 and read in there. And then after I do that, I'm going to change age size by 1, right? I'm going to simply do ++, and that will increase it from 0 to 1. And then I'm ready to read it again. So now what this read does, let's go ahead and see what that looks like. And there what we get is the 22 and then 23 -1s. So let's read another one. I want to read, I use the ifstream object, in, and this time I want to read into ages, and again I'm going to do age size, and this, now that it's incremented to 1, right? Then it'll store it in age size is 1, and we've used that one, so we want to increment it again. And we can just keep reading, right? So after that first read, remember when we open the file, it starts here, and after that first read, it reads till it gets to the first white space, so then the file pointer is right there. After the second read, the second read ignores leading white space, and it begins reading at the 37, and it reads until it gets to the end, right? So it'll read the 37, not move it, I don't want to move it, but it'll read it and store it. And then it's sitting there waiting for the next read, and so we can just keep reading them one after another. Let's go ahead and read a couple more. Now notice, I forgot the plus there, let's put it on there. Notice how I'm doing the same thing over and over again. Let's do it a couple more times. And you see the same thing happening. And then let's print that and see what happens. And there we have, we read the first 4, and then we have all these others remaining. And that's how you read from a file.